Today we're going to be looking at the Solomon 3 RTA by Kaees. This product was sent to me for the purpose of this review. Let's go ahead, open up the package, and see what comes with this RTA. Inside your box, you're going to have the Solomon 3 RTA, an accessory bag which is going to include a small hex screwdriver, spare coils, spare O-rings, spare post screws, and an 810 to 510 drip tip adapter. You're also going to get a spare glass tank. Now, the spare glass tank is a straight glass, and its capacity is going to be 3.5 mLs of e-liquid. Using the bubble glass, you are going to have a 5.5 ml liquid capacity. Additionally to that, you also get these little inserts. Now, the inserts that they include here, there's two kinds, and they explain it on the informational card here. So you have a dual coil cap and a single coil cap, and that I guess is going to change the airflow for you. So there's the information on that side, and then on the back of the information card you have some more information about the RTA there. The Solomon 3 RTA is a 25 millimeter RTA at the base. It has a 5.5 ml capacity bubble glass on it. It is a top airflow, so you have dual-sided top airflow, which is adjustable. So the adjustment ring on the airflow is a little stiff there, but it has some knurling, so it gives you some grip to be able to adjust it. The airflow ring is on a stopper, and of course whatever you adjust to one side, it adjusts on the other. Taking a look at the top, you do have this very wide bore large Delrin drip tip, and the Delrin drip tip is slightly inset on the inside. You can see there is a ring where my nail will go up in, and that is because of this little lip here. Now, other 810 drip tips will fit on top of this. Just be aware that there is that little bump out there, that different drip tips might look a little awkward on there, but it does have the silicone O-ring on the inside of the catch cup. To fill this tank, you are just going to twist off the top cap, and it's going to expose two very large fill ports on either side there. So that's the inside and how you will fill this RTA. If we go ahead and put that back on, then we can remove the base to expose the build deck. So we'll go ahead and turn that, and that's going to remove the build deck. So right away you can see that it already has pre-installed that other airflow cap. Now, these airflow caps are meant to change the way that your airflow feels. So you have your what they call single coil and your dual coil. The one that has these larger slots and more holes is going to be your dual coil airflow, and this one that just has these smaller honeycomb holes are meant for your single coil. And on either side, that is where your wicking is going to go. Now, it does say on the little instructions pamphlet to make sure that you fill the full side hole to prevent air leaking. So they want you to make sure that you're using enough cotton to fill up that whole side of the cutout there, which is a lot. I mean, that's going to be a lot of cotton to fill up those sides if that's what they want you to do. So we'll see what we can do with it. So to remove the little airflow cap, it does have a notch on it, so you're just going to go ahead and turn it, and then you can lift up. Same thing when you're putting it in, you're going to want to line up that little notch there. See if I can do this on camera. So we got to line up that little notch, which is proving to be harder than I thought it would be. Okay, so I finally got it seated down. It is a little bit of a pain there to get it to seat down, but once you do seat it down and you give it a little twist clockwise, it will lock into place, and then it's not going to come off. So now we're going to go ahead and remove that and take a look at the build deck. So you have 4 individual holes for your leads. It is sort of a post list in that you are going to have to pre-cut your leads before you place your coils down into those box, and you're going to be dropping your coils in from the top. So here on this side we have the positive post, which is surrounded by a peak insulator, and then on this side you have your negative post. So your coils are going to be facing this way in the RTA, and then your cotton's going to be coming out off to this side and going into this little wicking channel you have on either side of the blocks. And the deck is slightly raised, so as you can see you are going to have e-liquid free floating all the way around your cotton on all sides of the build deck there. So if we take the chimney here and we look down at it, you can see it does have a nice conical shape, and then it also has this chimney that extends down from the top, and that's going to be because this is the top airflow. So your airflow is coming down from the side of that chimney into the base there surrounding your coils, and then back through the top there. So now we have the base screwed down onto something. I'm going to go ahead and find an Allen tool that can remove these. So this is going to be a 1.3 sized Allen, and I'm going to back those screws out. And I've got one screw that feels a little janky, a little cross threaded in there. I'm going to back that all the way out and take a look at it. So the screws threads itself looks okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and try and thread that back in. And yeah, it does not want to go back in. I feel a stuck spot in there. So it looks like the threading on the inside there on that one port is a little off. Yeah, so that thread feels pretty rough there. Let's go ahead and move on to the other side. And that one's smooth. And that one's smooth. So we've got one post there where the threading internally on the block is messed up, and that's causing it to stick a little bit. And the coils that we'll be installing in this RTA today are the KB coils. You can find KB coils on kb.vapes on Instagram. These are going to be 3 times 28 gauge aliens wrapped in 36 gauge, 5 wraps, and they should ohm out to a 0.15. So because this is a postless deck, I'm going to get out my handy coily tool here, and I'm going to use it to measure this depth of those posts, and it looks like it's going to be about a 3.5 depth on those posts. So I'm going to go ahead and put my leads in the 3.5 slot and give them a clip. Okay, so I went ahead and clipped my leads to 3.5 millimeters with the coily tool, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop those down in and see where they sit. Yeah, I like how those sit. I think that's going to be a good height. And I'm just going to put the other one in here first. Drop that down in. And I might need to back this post out a little bit more. And then we're going to go ahead and place this cap on top and make sure it doesn't ground out. I tell you, placing the cap on is probably the most stressful part of this RTA right now, is getting that cap on, which I can't do with the screws all the way open. So I'm actually going to have to fasten my coil down first. I'm going to clip this one just a little bit shorter on this side. I mean, as far as building it up to this point, it's not bad. It's pretty easy. But I'm not really looking forward to that little airflow cap thingy. Kinda not excited about that. But who knows, it might change the game. It might change the flavor so much that I love it. But we're going to have to tighten those screws a little bit so we can fit this thing on. Alright, so now I got the screws on. Now to put the cap back in. Just getting it to slide down there evenly, because you got these little notches all the way around the dang cap that you got to line up and meet almost perfectly. See, there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and do that. And let's see, is it touching anywhere? Yeah, it looks like my coils are touching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean them inwards, and then I should be good. So now that we know that height-wise it's okay, we can go ahead and finish screwing them down and then lean them inwards. Now we're going to bring the coils in more towards the center, just like that. And then I've got to take my cap again, and this is the part I don't like. Trying to line it up. And then lock it in. Make sure my coils aren't touching anywhere inside of there. Yep, looks good. I got clearance. So now what I have to do is I have to take this off and pulse my coils and then put that damn airflow cap on again. Oops, sorry. Pardon my language. Can you tell I'm not excited about this little airflow cap? Okay, so I've got all the hot spots worked out and my coils are glowing nice and evenly from the inside out. Here's what it looks like from the side. Now, you could probably lower these coils even a little bit more, maybe 1/2 millimeter more. You definitely want to keep these coils very low. So I could have probably cut my leads to 3 millimeters and sat them down just a little bit lower. Now we need to go ahead and wick this up. Now, I don't know how I'm going to get enough wick in there to fill that whole space, but we're going to go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to use cotton threads to wick it up, and those are pretty thick. Cotton threads are usually pretty thick, so I may be able to get 2 of these in here and manage to fill up that whole area. So the wicks are definitely in there really nice and tight. Now I'm just going to go ahead and kind of line them up with that channel and bring them out past that channel a little bit. And this side is a bit thicker than the other, so I'm going to go ahead. I am going to just do a little bit of fluffing and thinning out the cotton on the ends. Yeah, I definitely had way more cotton on this side. And then we're going to go ahead and fluff out and thin this side a little bit too. Now we give them another haircut. And again, I'm holding my scissors at a 45-degree angle to leave the tops a little bit longer than the bottom. And then if we look underneath there, you can see that little half of a rectangle cut out there. That's where we're going to want to tuck our cotton. So I'm just going to lightly tuck my cotton into that area. And because this is top airflow, I'm not worried about leaking at all, but I do still need to worry about flooding. And whenever you flood a top airflow RTA, what you find is you get a lot of gurgling and spit back. So I don't want to wick it too loosely that it floods. But I'm definitely wicking it more loose than I would a bottom airflow RTA. And I'm doing just like the picture showed and making sure that there's so much cotton that it's going to cover that whole square area when I put on that top airflow cap thing. So there it is. That's how I have wicked it up. As you can see, the cotton does drop down below those threads. Now I don't have it pushed all the way down to where it's touching the bottom of the deck, but the cotton does drop down below those threads. I feel like I probably could have shortened it a little bit more and left it a little shorter, and it would have performed just as well by cutting all of this that you see here, cutting that length off and just letting it lightly tuck behind those threads. But we'll see how this works. We're going to go ahead and juice it up real quick. So now it's started on the wicking. Now we can go ahead and line our cap up again. And I already see a problem, and that's that I got too much wicking. There's no way I'm getting that cap to fall down. So I am going to have to cut some more wicking off. So we're just going to go ahead and untuck the cotton. And I'm going to kind of let where my juice stopped at be my guide. And I'm just going to thin it out a little bit more on the ends. And then I'm going to give it an even shorter haircut. And I think what I'm going to do is not only am I going to cut it this way at a 45-degree angle, but I'm also going to come in and cut the sides just a little bit. So there we go. We've went ahead and thinned it out a little bit more and cut it a little bit shorter. Then we're going to tuck it all back down into that little well. And then we're going to do the same on this side. So now that I've went ahead and re-wicked, you can see that the length is much shorter. You can just begin to see the cotton coming down from that metal band there, so it drops just below. Same thing on this side, you can see the tips of the cotton dropping down below there. So that's how we've wicked it up. Now we can go ahead and attempt to put that cap on again. So again, we're just going to line up that square. You can never get it to drop down evenly on both sides for some reason. I always end up getting one side drop down, not the other. Okay, there we go. And then we can turn it to lock it in place. So that's what it looks like with that airflow cap on it. So here is a top-down view of the coils with that airflow cap on it. Now we can go ahead and put our tank section on there. And screw down that tank section. And then we can go ahead and fill it. And there you have it, the Solomon 3 RTA. Let's go back up top, have a vape on it, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. Okay, and that was an up-close look at the Solomon 3 RTA. So what are my thoughts? Well, we'll go right into the pros. Fit and finish on this, I'm a little torn on that. The fit and finish as far as aesthetically on the outside, the threads on the top cap, the threads on the base, all of that is really nice and smooth. But I ran into one little problem on the build deck, and that was that one of the posts were not drilled out correctly. So the screw, I checked the grub screw was fine, the threading on the grub screw was fine, but the threading on the inside of the one post was not okay. It was a little rough. The grub screw threaded in okay, but I can see over time that wearing down my grub screw, and eventually that could cause some cross threading problems and problems of me not being able to get that screw back out. So I do have to mention it, and for that it doesn't get a pro on the fit and finish, it gets a mention on the fit and finish. Now a pro on this is going to be the airflow. The airflow on this thing is so smooth, and there is lots of airflow to it, and they offer those two caps. You've got the one cap which is for dual coil, which has more holes in it, and then you've got the second cap for single coil, which has more restricted airflow on it. And I'm gonna go ahead and let you listen to the airflow wide open dual coil. Could you hear that? I couldn't. Now, I am hard of hearing, but I gotta say, this is one of the quieter tanks I've had. Most tanks have a little bit of a hollow sound to them just because the way they're made. And I gotta say, this RTA has some of the quietest and smoothest airflow I've ever had. And the next pro on this is the flavor. Because of that little cap, as annoying as that little cap is, I was quite annoyed with trying to slide that little cap over top of my build. It really does make a difference in the flavor on this RTA. So I think the cloud production is definitely good on this. The airflow, the smoothness of it is good, and the flavor of this RTA is good as well. Next, let's talk about the build deck. Building a dual or a single coil in this is very easy. While it is more of a postless deck and you do have to go through the trial and error of clipping your leads, it is pretty self-explanatory when you look at the deck how long you need to leave those leads. So definitely a pro for ease of build. Now let's talk about wicking. I thought the wicking was going to be a little bit more finicky than it actually turned out to be. I did have to go back and cut my wicks a little bit shorter, as you saw in the up close, because it was so much cotton and I needed to squeeze it inside that tiny little cap. But once I did wick it up, I've had no issues with flooding, no issues with dry hits. So it definitely gets a pro for its wicking as well. It is fairly easy to wick this RTA also. Next pro on it is going to be that it's top airflow, so you're never going to have to worry about leaking. Now, while you can still flood this deck, you're not really going to be able to make it leak unless, of course, you just held it upside down maybe or something like that. Mostly it's leak proof because it's top airflow, and that gets a pro for me. Now, as far as cons go, the only con I really had about this device is the fact that the quality control on those screws, or I should say the quality control on the deck, and the fact that one of those screw holes was not bored out properly. So it gets a con on the quality control there for me. Again, this is something I could probably reach out and contact Kaees, and they would probably replace it for me once I showed them the issue and sent it back to them. But I'm not going to, because really I don't think it's going to create too much of a problem. And if it does ever strip out, for the price of this, I think it's like 27 bucks online. I'll just buy another one if I really like it that much. So that's my thoughts on the Kaees Solomon 3 RTA. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, bye-bye.